Hello.
All right,
Oh,
looks
I
like
know
we're
that
settled
name.
in. So,
See, there's friends in the chat. Ta-da! Wow!
Oh,
Hi, everybody.
Hi, John.
Hi,
John.
John.
Hi, John.
Welcome to the Why the Storyteller Needs a Narrator panel here at Virtual Balticon 54. Whee! Okay, that's enough excitement.
No,
No,
not nearly.
no. I remember what Starla said. Hold the feeling stuff. I am your moderator for this wonderful panel. John Walker. I'm author of the Stafford Chronicles, about a guy who gets beat up a lot by the gods. And I would like all of my panelists to start with you, Mel, if you would be so kind. Introduce yourself, please.
I am Melissa Hayden. I do freelance content editing at melissalhayden.com and book blogging and book reviews at My World in Words and Pages.
Okay. Go ahead, Starla.
Hi, I am Starla Huchton, and I have been writing books for 11, 12 years, something like that. I think I'm going on like 25 titles now. Sounds about right. But when I am not doing that, I do freelance book cover design, and most pertinent to this particular panel, I'm also an audiobook narrator, so that's me.
Okay, Mike.
I'm Mike Luoma, and I'm a writer and a narrator. Just put out my new book, The Star Seeds of Earth,
Woo!
and I just narrated that. So I also, I'm a writer and a narrator as well, and so that's why I'm here. And glowinthedarkradio.com is where to go if you want to find out more. So.
Okay, and of course, Dave.
I am Dave Robison. I am the creator of Archivos, an online story development and presentation application. Find out more at archivos.digital. I'm also the host of the Archivos Podcast Network, formerly the Roundtable Podcast, currently on hiatus, but that may be changing in the coming near future. Well, maybe not near future, but yeah, it might be changing. And specifically, I am also the keeper of the Buttery Man Voice, TM Pat Pending, which means I do a lot of book narration. I'm currently narrating 3 audiobooks, not right this moment, but in the world around me, I've got 3 books in the hopper and more to come. So I'm looking forward to this panel. That's me.
Okay, well, and I want to welcome all of our wonderful folks sitting out in the audience. Please, if you have any stuff you want us to talk to each other, if you want to ask us questions, please use the Q&A. We'll get to those questions, and please make sure they're questions. If you want to chat amongst yourselves, please go ahead and do so. We also have a Discord available. So please feel free to chat amongst yourselves and ask us questions. Some of us, not me, will have answers for you. So let's start off with the actual question, the burning question of this panel. Why does a storyteller actually need a narrator? Why do you need to narrate the words that are written down? So it's Starla, hit.
Well, most importantly, I think authors need to monetize all potential platforms. Like not pursuing an audiobook is leaving money on the table. And you need some, not just because you can do a thing doesn't mean you should. So that's where the narrator comes in, and it is our job to give a voice to the words on the page and bring your creations to life in audible form.
Okay, Dave, everybody's going to answer this, so we'll go with this.
Unmute myself. There we go.
Hey.
I actually think this panel is misnamed. I don't think your story needs a narrator. Your story is perfectly fine in ink on paper or pixel on screen. However, that said, since what you can do, what Starla said specifically, absolutely true. There is money on the table, and it's big. It's good money and a new way to talk about your story. But the first time you engaged with storytelling, somebody read a story to you. It might have been a parent, it might have been an aunt or uncle, it might have been the television. It doesn't matter. Your first experience and engagement with other worlds was audible. And by introducing your story into that media arena, you take it from a very intimate and personal experience to a much broader, engaging, exciting environment. It's theater of the mind, because not only now are your words and your narrative being brought to the reader or to the audience now more accurately, but you're also bringing in the talent of the voice actor, hopefully voice actor, who is infusing your story with their own creative juices, their own creative spin and magnitude. And it's astonishing. As you all have discovered, clearly you've heard audiobooks. It's a whole different way of engaging with your narrative. It just takes it to 11 all the way around. So you don't have to, but oh my God, why wouldn't you?
Mel?
And you're going to expect me to follow that.
Yes, yes, I am. Come on, go ahead.
Yes, and yes. The world is changing these days. A lot of people do still like to read the words on the page, but there's a lot of people that want to hear it. And if you pick the right narrator, you will not get just one voice for your characters. You will get a whole world opened up. And as I've always said, if you bring in the right narrator, you've just added a fourth dimension to it. And so many things there's so much that people start to see then once you add the right voice to it and the right sounds that they can give to a character. So if you are willing, if you are able, and if you would like to take advantage of the money available, you got to go for it. Do the audio. It's well worth it.
Okay, Mike, go ahead. Give us and round this question out. We'll get to the next one, which is going to be a lot more in depth, I hope.
Well, I think, all of the above is true. You need to, first of all, go where the audience is, and the audience is out there for audiobooks. And people are consuming media in different ways than they used to. And sometimes they're consuming it in multiple ways. So they might read your book going to bed. They might get up and listen to your book commuting to work when they start commuting to work again. And, you just want to be there in the different forms that people are looking to experience your work in. And it's important to get the right narrator. There are a lot of people out there narrating audiobooks. And I'd say, just looking at my fellow panelists here, we've got some great ones. But there's other people out there that aren't necessarily doing the best job. So I think you really need to get the best narrators too. And that's an important part of it, is finding the right voice. And, like Mel was saying too, it's hiring a narrator who knows what the oral interpretation of literature is, which is bringing those characters to life and actually infusing your book with that kind of a spirit, that kind of an animus or anima.
I also want to point out that there is an entire portion of the population that is unable to read the printed word and actually require an audible means of taking in that media. So it's another potential audience that you may not reach otherwise.
Good call. I was already gonna get that one.
Could I just building off of that? I've got one of my my readers was just saying, I can't wait till the audiobook is out because my eyes are getting too, 69-year-old eyes can't read as much as I can. So he wanted the audiobook. So even just people getting older.
Well, that's pretty. Yeah. No, that's. I absolutely agree. Now, as far as let's go with the good one of the questions I have, as far as what if you should you decide to do your own, which at least I'm going to say all of you have done, reading your own work, what would be the best way to, what software would you need, hardware, just as a general rule? Because a lot of folks want to read their, I know
I
at
mean,
least
but
one
that's a
guy.
huge question. There's a lot of stuff.
Well, just as far, we'll drill into the specifics, but like as far as basics,
Starla,
what
as
would
the
you
only
recommend?
person on the panel, I think, who's built Starlab voiceover in their basements, Starla, lead us off with this one, won't you?
Oh yes.
Well,
Please.
okay, so first off, it's the Death Star. Thank you. Mark Kilfoyle actually he took a look at it. He was like, "Are you on the Death Star?" Anyway, all of this is not really necessary. It's ideal, but like especially if you're just starting out, the big thing is a small, quiet space. You don't want any outside noise interfering. If you can get a closet that is well insulated and has, lots of clothes hanging around you, that can function as a good sound treated space. Like there's some basic stuff that you can do. So yeah, it's not all. You don't have to have the professional grade sound booth that you spent months building. As far as equipment, you need a good quality mic, and people have different preferences for what sounds best with their voice. You don't necessarily need to drop $1,000 on a good microphone to get the quality that you're after. People have different preferences for their software as well. Like some people really love Reaper, some people use Audacity. I use Logic Pro, so it varies a lot. It's a huge question, and everybody's going to have opinions on it. And you know what they say about opinions.
Yeah, we can't say that because this is a PG-13. Let's go, Mel. Do you have anything to add, or okay, fine.
Sorry, I don't narrate. I just listen. I know what I like to listen to.
Well, I know Mike also does he glow in the dark radio as well. So you all, I imagine you do a lot of your equipment goes hand in hand with narrating your work, correct?
Yeah, I mean, when you're recording audio, you're recording audio. So no matter what you're doing it for, you need to have, first of all, a good setup that is, relatively soundproof. You can do some stuff after the fact to take some background noise out, but it's going to impact your voice as well. So you just got to be aware of that. And to do it right takes some finagling and kind of getting granular. So I don't want to get down too much into that. I'd recommend you can get away with a Yeti microphone. That's what this is. And those you can get.
How much does that cost?
That's about $120, so it's not that expensive if you've got, a relatively good laptop with a good sound card. You plug that in, you can download Audacity for free. I use what's it called?
Adobe Audition?
Adobe Audition. I was going to call it Cool Edit Pro, and then my brain froze. So
You're old school, dude.
I go way back. I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, Audacity, I've got Audacity now on a different workstation because I had to set something up here for a roommate of mine actually does a radio show on WBKM, which is an internet station that I'm on. And I do internet radio from home now using my setup, but I also needed to set something up in the kitchen. So I did that with Audacity, and I've been finding that's been working just fine there. So I hadn't actually tried that before, and now I can speak to it and say that's functioning. So it's really learning your equipment. You can buy cheaper equipment, but you need to learn what you're working with and kind of, if you're going to DIY it, get down and actually read the instructions and try to figure out how to do some sound processing as well. Yeah, instructions, silly.
Okay, now Dave, I do have this question for you. As far as how long, because everybody here who knows audiobooks, they're like, oh, wow, a 7-hour audiobook. It's probably was really easy to do. Dave, would you like to dispel any rumors to
Oh,
that
oh my
ridiculousness?
goodness, yes, I would love to do that.
Oh,
Actually,
please
I
do.
do need to, regarding the previous topic, I want to flag Doc Coleman just tossed up J. Daniel Sawyer's book, Making Tracks, in the chat room or in the chat list there, and I can second that vehemently. That book is, if you're looking for a gateway drug into this whole business, Dan Sawyer's Making Tracks is a fabulous resource to get you started. Breaks down terminology, gives you strategies and concepts, breaks down hardware, the whole Megillah. So I can heartily endorse that and everything that all of my fellow panelists just said. Yes, so a 7-hour audiobook. So it only took 7 hours to record, right? Yeah, not so much. More like on a good day, 20 plus, depending on how many retakes you had to do, preparation. Personally, for my process, I will read the chapter in my head to get a feel for its emotional response, its beats, its rhythms, any weird voices I need to prepare for. Then I will read, again, sitting on my sofa, sitting out loud. I will read the same chapter again, looking for, and I wish I had prepped a bunch of them, but there are things you writers do that put words together that should never be put together in a person's mouth. But you
We do that just for you, Dave.
just for us. So you need to find those and practice those and be ready to present those. Then you go in the studio. And no, you don't do an entire paragraph in a single take. No, you don't do a page. You don't do a paragraph. Well, maybe if you're lucky, you get a paragraph. And this, again, my process, a paragraph in a single take. Usually you're going to be taking multiple takes. If you're just handing off the audio to somebody else, lucky you, and they're doing the production and the cleanup and all of that stuff. 9 times out of 10 with my projects, I'm the one doing that. So the aftermath of that, the production, to clean all of that up, get all that nasty mouth noise out of there, and drop out all those things and lining it up so it all fits. Yeah, at least 20 to 30 hours would be my guesstimation for a 7-hour audiobook. That's my take.
Okay, great. Mel, I don't know if you saw the question I asked you, but just so for our listeners out there, as a listener, what do you look for in a narrator? Like, as far as do you prefer male narrators, female narrators, loud narrators? I wouldn't know anybody like that, but go ahead and give us an idea of what, as a listener, you look for in a narrator.
There's just so many things. It does not matter if it's male or female. I have my favorites of both. I follow many narrators because everybody does something a little different. My biggest thing is when I start a book, I always listen to a sample before I purchase the book, because I am a firm believer of, if that voice does not sound right to me from the get-go, I do not want to ruin the book. And it doesn't necessarily mean that that narrator is a bad narrator. It's just what is appealing for my ear. There are magnificent narrators out there, and people have loved them, and I'm like, for whatever reason, I just can't listen to them. Again, it's not them. It's just what I want to hear or how I hear it. But I do notice that when I listen, I do, as Dave had mentioned, all those extra sounds. You can pick up on those real quick, and that is terribly distracting when I am listening to a story. If I'm
sometimes
hearing,
disgusting.
yes, but if I'm hearing, and sometimes, and I don't know if it's the where they're sitting or if it's the equipment they're using or what, but sometimes you can even hear like a twang it's a background. It's not their voice. It's like they're in a tin can, and in that twang echo in the back while they're talking is so distracting that you don't even realize what you're hearing in the story. So I will look for those things because a lot of times, hey, it's a really good book, but there's just something going on that I don't want to take away from the book from. And sometimes it does do that.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Nope. I just try to hear a sample, and if it sounds like it's a good, clear production and the voice is appealing to me, I'll pick it up.
Okay.
And more times than not, that happens. But
That's what Audible credits are for.
Yeah.
Doc has a wonderful question, and we'll start with you, Mike, because I said so. Who are some of the narrators that you follow?
Thank God he's drunk with power.
Hey, hammer. Okay.
I actually don't listen to a lot of audiobooks because I'm usually working on recording and editing audiobooks, and it's kind of like listening to work. I don't know. I worked in radio too. I'm that way with radio. I can't listen to a radio station because I start to analyze. So if I'm listening to an audiobook, I start to analyze what they're doing. So I actually prefer reading the printed page. Sorry.
Sorry. Go. Okay. Starla.
Kind of along the same lines as Mike. I don't follow specific narrators. I do listen to audiobooks, but a lot of times I find myself like little things will stand out to me that will just drive me crazy. Like just maybe sometimes it's the way they will pronounce a particular word and it will stand out to me throughout the entire book. And it will just take away from the whole experience for me. So I don't follow specific narrators. And that's just I'm in a lot of like different like social media type groups where I interact or I read posts from different narrators, but it's all like work related stuff, not necessarily, their actual work. If that makes sense.
Mr. Robison, sir.
I'm pretty sure you meant Melissa Hay. I know you said Dave Robison,
I
but
did.
I'm thinking you meant Melissa
I probably
because I
did.
have no particular opinions on the subject.
Well, you both look so alike. I'm gonna run away now.
I have a list. I do. Starla's on the list. Dave's on the list. Mike, I have a list. Veronica, you cannot listen to audiobooks without listening to Veronica Jagir. Good gravy. I have made a list of narrators even over on my blog, but it's not that I necessarily follow the narrator themselves either. I will willingly and gladly listen to pretty much anybody. And it all depends on what you're listening for or to. If you're listening to fantasy stories, goblins, elves, the whole 9 yards, there's a whole group of people that do those amazing. If you're looking for romance, like there's certain people that do those. Not that they can't do anything else, but they're the people that I go to for specific genres in stories as well. I don't know. I have Jeffrey Kafer as one of them. Adam Werner. There's a whole list of people that I have.
You got a URL for that list? That sounds like a fascinating list.
Huh?
You have a URL for that list? That sounds like a fascinating list.
Yeah, I think I do.
Go ahead and look for that and share that in the chat. I think that'd be awesome.
This is just a list of audiobooks that I have reviewed, and in the bottom is a list of just a couple because I haven't had a chance to update it. in probably about a year, which that's on my list.
List of things to do. Update list. Okay. Let's see. We've covered hardware. We covered software. Sort of. Enough to where people can get started. We've covered people who you like to listen to. And we've covered. Well, one thing I'm actually wanting to get in on this as well. So this is kind of a, kind of a question. Something I would actually like to get into. So it's it's a lot of this is informative for me. But what I'd really like to know, as far as everybody is concerned, is where in the name of God do you find the time to do all this? I mean, I like you said, like Dave said, there's, that's 7 hours, that's 20 hours a day for 6 months, by the time you get the first page done. But no, I mean, as far as time is concerned, how do you find the time to do the narration?
You got to make choices, and sometimes you have to sacrifice things. For me, it was a decision long ago, as far as writing and doing audio in general, that I wasn't going to play video games. So I am not a gamer because I couldn't take that time. I took the time that I would maybe spend doing that, and I put that towards my writing. I also, in the last couple of years, I don't know, lost the taste for alcohol. So I'm not drinking, and I just have more time. And I can wake up in the morning and do things like that, which I really enjoy as well. So in terms of time, I think it's also applying yourself. You have to be willing to discipline yourself and make yourself do this stuff, even when you feel like crap and you don't want to.
Yeah, it's if you want a thing bad enough, you find a way to do it. One way to cut down on time is to outsource the editing and the processing, which I actually work with James Melzer to produce a lot of my audio, because that is not an interest that I have. I actually just learned how to do punch and roll, so I'm super excited about getting to use that finally, because I didn't have a setup where I was able to do that, because I wasn't sitting in front of a computer monitor that was, running the recording software, which is kind of required. But now that I have the booth and everything, I can do that. So that's actually also going to help cut down on the production time as well, because that's less for him to fix and clean up in the end, and doesn't really cost me that much more time. And hopefully there will be fewer pickups that I have to do after the every chapter or whatever is complete. So
just
Well,
if I may, just
yeah.
for the benefit of those of us who don't know, punch and roll, could you?
So basically what that means is, okay, so you're going along and you're reading the script, and then you make a mistake. Rather than, just reading it over again and then having to go back and edit that out later, what you do is you just scroll back in the audio, you punch into a certain point in the audio, and you listen. When it gets to that point, you keep recording and you just move on. And it the entire file is hard to explain. The all of the different tracks, they merge together when you export them, and so you don't have to go back and edit out all these little flubs like you would normally. Anyway,
Little flubs, yeah.
There's a
Google
lot
it.
of
It's
there's
probably a
different
better
ways of
explanation for it.
No, I actually understood that. That's actually really cool. I'm gonna have to try that.
there's different
Yeah,
ways
so
of
you're
doing
punching
things.
in and just rolling with it.
There's, like, for me, I can't do that. Well, I could do that, but I found, because I'm doing all my own editing after the fact, that I snap my fingers as I'm going along, and that puts a marker down if I make a mistake, and I just keep going. So then I do my first edit on my audio going from the back to the front, and take out all the places where I've made a mistake, and I've clicked that as like a kind of an audio placard, because if I stop and punch and roll, I'm losing time. And some of the stuff that I do, I love doing, really creative fiction stuff, but I'm also the king of like the 3-hour nonfiction, really cheap books. So those you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on. So if you make a mistake, you snap your fingers, you go back, you cut it out, and you don't spend as much time doing the audio.
And knowing as many narrators as I do, when I'm listening to an audiobook and then all of a sudden I hear, and I'm like, oh yeah.
Oops.
Missed that one, didn't you?
Yeah, you were going. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Well, and let's talk about outsourcing. Starla invoked the word. It's a very good word, and I'm betting many of the people in the audience don't have the time to invest 30 hours in getting their book out into the world in audio form. Nor should you have to. There's ACX, ladies and gentlemen, where indie authors from around the world upload their books, audition aspiring voice actors to go out and become the voice actors for their books, and then many times, not all the time, but many times, don't have to pay them, paying them instead a percentage off the tail that's all handled by Audible once the book gets uploaded and launched out. Wait, what, Starla?
Well, it's a great option, but a lot of really good narrators will not do royalty share.
Hi.
Absolutely.
I
No, it's
won't do
true.
it.
I
It's
won't
true.
do it either anymore. I'm done.
and I am disinclined to do so as well. Yeah, I'm not
I need
saying
to
you're going to
eat.
get us.
I need to eat, man, Put
Well,
food
yeah,
on my table.
but this is our work. This is what we do. This is how we're paying the bills. There are people who could potentially become as awesome as we all are, that are trying to break into the biz. And a lot of people are breaking into the biz through ACX, or it's a hobby for them. They just like doing it because it's fun. And there's gold in them, our ACX hills. It might take you wading through a lot of gravel to get through to find that golden nugget of voice acting goodness. But if you don't have the money, if you're branching into this, you want to explore it with minimum risk, and the platform then feeds directly in to audible.com, so all of that stuff is automated. I highly recommend it as a way to at least get your feet wet if you want to be a narrator, or if you're an author wanting to try it out.
Can I just add, please wade through the voices. I know it sounds like it's a lot of work to listen to all these voices that people can do, but you really want to get the right voice, and you want somebody that can read a book per se, because I have picked up audiobooks where the narrator just doesn't sound like they can put the words together in a fashion that flows smoothly and does the book justice.
Well, and that's the beauty of ACX too, is that you can set up auditions. You can take a snippet of your book and say, hey, read this for me, and I'll decide if you can read my book or not.
Yeah.
So you have that option.
Yeah, I
I'm
did
just
that. I
asking
actually did
everybody
that
to
once.
do it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Mel. I was just gonna say I did that once, and somebody sent back an audition of, I don't know what the hell they were reading, but there is no ripping of bodices in any of my books. Okay? None. I was like,
I would point out that there are other platforms for getting an audiobook made and distributed, such as Findaway Voices. There's also Spoken Realms, I think, is another one. There is another new one, and it's completely escaping me right now. But basically what you do is you give these people your manuscript, and they screen, like they find a good match narrator for you, and like they have these people audition, and they pull the best ones. That's their function, especially on Findaway Voices. That is what they do. So if you want to take out some of the work, that's a good option.
I'm just going to say you get what you pay for. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
But royalty share is fine, but you're not going to get the best narrators doing pure royalty share. there's combinations now, and some pretty good narrators will do kind of a combination where they get a certain amount upfront and a certain amount of royalty share. So that can be one of those ways that you work around that. But you know, like I say, you get what you pay for. So maybe some of these narrators that Mel's hearing that don't sound so great did it by royalty share. But again, like Dave says too, I'm sympathetic to people who get on there, and when you first get on ACX and you look at how much it costs to produce a book, it's like, hey, I've got, you know, a 70,000 word book. It's gonna cost you a lot of money because you're paying per finished hour for that book. And so there is an element of sticker shock. And I think people need to be prepared going in to know that you're paying to create something in a brand new format. Even though it's your book, it's an additional format. And you just kind of need to be ready for that. Otherwise, it is a kind of sticker shock.
And Doc wants to know how much that's going to cost.
Well, if you've got, let's see, I just did a 105,000 word book, which was mine. So I'm kind of intimate with it. That was just about 13 hours. So if that was in the case of like per finished hour, you can probably pay about $100 per finished hour to get a decent
That's on the
narrator.
very low end, because
that
the
is very low
professional
end.
standard rate is 250
I know
per
it's
finished
250,
hour.
but I'm
Yeah.
not making 250. So
Yeah, I'm not either yet.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why not?
Long story.
Okay.
Anyway.
But yeah, I mean, you can get a good book done with a decent narrator for $100 per finished hour, which, as Starla points out, is a little bit low. But it is, you know, it is going to get you a decent book. But that's a lot of money. That's $1,300 for a book to have it produced, and you're just putting that out there and hoping that you make something back on it. So I can understand. There is a sticker shock.
Yeah, well, the thing with royalty share is that you are taking that cost, that upfront cost, that the narrator would shoulder that risk that they will make money. If you do not have the faith in your book that it is going to make back that money, why do you expect someone else to? So that's the issue with royalty share. You are asking a total stranger to accept the risk that your book might be the unicorn that, you know, makes them thousands of dollars.
We usually
because
see
they are
what happens to
unicorns.
You know. but that leads to another part. If you're not doing the narrate, say, you know, you're doing the narration, but you're outsourcing it. How much? What's the cost as far? What's the range? Let's give it a range. I'm not going to do exact.
That
Looking for
depends
production
on what
costs?
that depends on what you're hiring for. If you're just like, if you're doing all of the like taking out all of the flubs and doing all the retakes and all of that stuff yourself and just sending it to someone else for the mastering, like to make sure like there's no background noise, that the, you know, the floor, the decibel range is within ACX specs and all of this stuff. If you're just sending it off for like post-production type things, it's going to be cheaper. You might be able to get that for maybe as low as $25 per finished hour, but you're probably looking more at 50 to 75. So yeah, when you're, like I said, when you're doing royalty share, the narrator, who a lot of them do outsource those services, they have to eat that cost. So
Right.
that's a big reason that you get, you know, the standard rate is $250 per finished hour, because out of that we are typically paying someone else to do production work on those audio files.
Or putting in the time ourselves, and we want to get compensated for that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that, I mean, of course, that makes sense. Oh, I had a question and I just blew it. Do we have any questions from the audience? Any more questions? No? Okay. Give me a second.
I just wanted to add again, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but you really want somebody that's going to do and take their time to do the editing that needs done. Because once there's that one book that the editing is just terrible, you're going to ruin every book you put out after that, especially if it's with the same poor narrator. You really don't want to do that. You see what happens with people that have books out that they're not getting edited, and they're really getting raked over the coals for it, so you don't want to, you just want to make sure your audio is the best that can be out there for the price.
As an example, I did book 2 in the series, and I took over for a different narrator. And one of the reasons that this author decided to switch narrators was because the editing on the book previously had been like the narrator had even left like a sneeze in the audiobook files. And I'm just like, really? Like, how do you miss that? So yeah, when we're talking about, making sure your production is good, that's what we're talking about. No sneezes.
I can't even. I just can't even with that one. All right. Doc has a actual question. He's asking if he's willing to do the engineering and finishing. Does that mean he should be able to negotiate raw audio for around 150, 175 an hour?
Oh, I would absolutely do it for that. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And Colleen Moore has this question. She first popped in. Dave said something like, "You writers put words in your characters' mouths they have no business to say."
I have.
Would you please
I've
give
got
an
one.
example?
Please. I don't have specific examples. I just know there are certain combinations of words that take me 5 takes to get through because those consonants don't belong together. Starla, if you have examples, please.
So what's funny is that I've done this to myself on top of having other authors do it to me. One of them for a book that I did, it was soldiers' shoulders. I could not get through that. And then I have a live reading with Chris Lester at 7 tonight. If you guys want to hear me read something, but the selection that I picked actually had to go back and I did some small tweaking because there was a combination of words that I could not say together. It was probably blushing. So I actually, because they were my words and I can do that.
On the fly even, hell yeah.
Yes, so fixed it. But yeah, there's definitely combinations of words and sometimes it'll just be something random. Like there's no reason that you shouldn't be able to say it.
Yeah.
And it would just be one sentence that it'll take you 20 tries and then you might finally get through it.
Yep. Well, and Colleen, you had mentioned that you wanted your story to be easy to read. I honestly don't expect you as a writer to be thinking about us as you're writing your book, or even in the maybe second or third pass of the book. However, I will say, and I will say, I've done this myself, and I'm sure writers in the group will affirm, one of the best ways to edit your story is to read it out loud. And if you're reading your story out loud and you're having problems with something, I guarantee you we're going to have problems with it too.
That's how I polish my final draft. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a great way to see, especially if dialogue flows.
Definitely.
If it sounds like something people would say, So yeah, it's a great editorial tool just as you're working on the book itself, just to read it out loud. Highly recommended.
And like Starla was saying, I was just yelling at myself doing my recording of my last book. And I forget what it was. I don't even remember what the phrase was, but I was just stuck on it 5 or 6 times and snapping. I couldn't even get my fingers to snap by the end. And I was just like, oh, fuck you, Mike. I'm yelling at myself.
That's our one F-bomb.
Oh, I bleeped myself. I just went, F you, Mike.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
I worked in radio.
I know. I'm just giving you hell. We have one more question and then we gotta wrap up. Doc asks, are there individual words you have problems with, like Bernie Dink Cumberbink, who can't say penguin?
I remember hearing that whole, like,
It
there
was
was a whole
funny.
documentary that he pronounced it weird, like penguin or something. Like he could not
Penguin, yeah.
His
say this
penguins
word.
is practically chickens. Yes.
Hmm.
Starla?
I can't think of anything. Like if there's ever a word that I'm unsure of, like I always use things like, dictionary.com and Forvo to double check pronunciations. Like if there's weird made up words when I'm doing my, pre-recording prep. I always go through, and if there's like weird like fantasy or sci-fi words, stuff the author has made up, or names even, especially if they are unfamiliar names, like if they're from a different culture. I want to make sure that I'm getting those pronunciations right. So I can't think of any specific words off the top of my head that like I don't, or I say them incorrectly every single time. Like I don't know. But yeah, so that's definitely one of the things that I prep with to make sure that I don't have those issues.
Exactly. That's why you read the thing out loud before you get behind the mic, so you can find those in advance. Yep.
But as a reader, every once in a while, I'll come across a word that I've been saying wrong in my head as I've been reading it. And then you'll say it wrong, recording it, and they're listening back and they go, "What the hell? Why did you say that word that way?" Early on in radio, for some reason, I had always read the word unable as unable, and I said unable. And this is radio. This wasn't books, but they were like, "What did you just say?" So that was one word early on, but I cured that. But every once in a while, because I've been a reader, there's a word that I've just read that I haven't heard that I'll say wrong.
Okay. Well, this is about it, but I want to thank everybody for showing up. Even me, I almost missed it. But I want to thank everybody everybody in the audience for showing up. Thank you very much for making virtual Balticon possible. And let's go down the line, starting with Mel. Tell us where we can find you.
You can find me for my editing, melissallhayden.com, and you can find me at My World in Words and Pages for my blog, for book reviews and blogging. Also on Twitter as Melhay with 2 L's, MELLHAY. And I will be on and off at Discord through the weekend if you want to find me over there as well.
Starla?
You can find me, everything that I do, all the links to all my stuff at starlahuchton.com. I'm on Instagram at Starla Huchton. I'm on ACX. You can find me, just do a search for me. I think I have a link to that on starlahuchton.com as well. My book covers are designed by starla.com. I'm on Twitter at Starla Huchton. I have Facebook pages for my author stuff and my design stuff. I'm everywhere, so good luck avoiding
You are
me.
everywhere.
She is. Mike?
You just go to glowinthedarkradio.com or mikeluoma.com, and I just put out my brand new book, Starseeds of Earth. So please go take a look at that and maybe give a listen and see if you want to download it, buy it, see it, listen. So thank you.
And congrats on that, Mike. And Dave?
Putting this in the chat window, it's archivos.digital, ARCHIVOS.digital. That's a link to the software. That's a link to the podcast. That's a link to all the Instagram and the Facebooks and the Twitters and all the stuff that's out there. That's all in there. You can find me there. And I too, like Mel, will be popping into the Discord channel from time to time. If you have follow-up questions that we didn't address, Discord is a great way to follow up on that and keep the conversation going.
And I am John Walker. I'm author of the Stafford Chronicles.
Who are you?
You are Tom Stafford is what you are.
I am both. I'm on Twitter as Walker875. I'm also Tom Stafford's on Twitter too. Don't ask. At Stafford Tom. You can also find me on Amazon with just look up the Stafford Chronicles. And I'm putting out another book in the next couple weeks, eventually. But I want to say again, stop by the Discord if you have any more questions. You want to just chat everybody up, say, hey, what's going on? But I want to thank everybody for showing up, and y'all are wonderful. Thank you.